Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user FinalHurry8081. Am I the a-hole for not acknowledging my girlfriend's equity in the house we live in? I, 38 male, met my girlfriend, 32 female, 7 years ago when I was looking for a house. At the time, she was working for a guy who did custom carpentry, and we were introduced by a mutual acquaintance who I told I wanted to redo the kitchen in the house. She and her boss did some work for my kitchen renovation. We maintained in touch, and about 5 years ago, we started dating. About 3 years ago, she moved in. We maintain separate finances at my insistence. I have 2 kids. I pay 100% of the mortgage, homeowners insurance, HOA fees, and any maintenance costs that arise. Apart from that, we split groceries and utilities historically. Now, about 4 months ago, my girlfriend lost her job. She has been looking, but has not found anything. She has been paying most of her expenses using her savings. And about 2 months ago, I was reached out by a realtor. There is an older couple originally from the area looking to move back. They looked at another house that was for sale in the neighborhood, but they saw my house on the outside and really loved it. He said they would be willing to pay a premium. I let them do a walkthrough and they made an insane offer. After talking to my girlfriend, I accepted. We are now looking for a new place. Here's the issue. My girlfriend has approached me about collecting on her equity when the sale is finalized. I thought she was joking, but she was serious. I told her that she does not have equity in the house. She thinks she does because of what work she did in the kitchen during the renovation and helping maintain the house. The thing is, she was paid for her renovation work. It was before we were dating. The maintenance she does on the house is cleaning and occasionally unclogging a toilet and or changing the smoke alarm batteries. I do not think that is grounds for equity in the house. Am I the a-hole? No, OP, you're not the a-hole. This is an insane request. You are the one that is actually doing all the payments. She's just sharing in on the partner life living in a house. There's no difference to her if that house was rented or not. So just for argument's sake, let's pretend you didn't own the house and you two were renting. Would she demand equity from the owner of the house if he decided to sell and end the contract? Of course not, because it is ridiculous. You're not the a-hole, OP, and if she keeps demanding money from this, then I'm thinking something else is going on in the background. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Whole Competitive 3303 says, not the a-hole. I'm also a woman in my 30s and this is insane. You paid for the work she did before your relationship, so that was not an investment of any kind on her part and certainly can't be considered. You pay for all of the house costs. The work she does around the house at most could be considered a favor to you for offering her free housing. Sheesh. Rev Kiriel says, not the a-hole. You've been letting girlfriend stay in your house for free. Work that she did as part of her employment before you became a couple is irrelevant. She was paid for that. Her maintaining of the house was not repair work, but only keeping the space clean and livable. She would be expected to do this if she were renting, and it gives her no more equity than it would in rental accommodation. That's what I said. And since you've kept your finances separate and you're the one who has been paying everything for the house, it doesn't seem that she's contributed anything that would earn her any equity. Awkward Tourist 979 says, in my country, Australia, as a de facto couple, she could make a claim, but she would need to demonstrate she assisted in either the maintenance and or acquisition of the property. Her claim would be greater if she had children with you. It sounds like you're in the US, but pretend if we are not. She did not help you acquire the house and you were not even together when she completed the renovations. She was paid for the work through her employment. She has been living in the property, and so long as she hasn't painted walls and done any landscaping that increased the value of the property, it would be hard for her to demonstrate she is entitled, although I have seen people making claims they are entitled to equity purely because they watered some plants. My suggestion is you break up with her now, before you buy your next property, as she has now shown you she's an a-hole. And Ashley Patience says, you've been living together for 3 years. I'm wondering why this never came up. When I moved an ex into my home when I was young and dumb, I was very clear he was paying rent and in no way was a co-owner of the home. I'm surprised you never had that conversation, but she should obviously put on her thinking cap and realize that. Still hung up on the living together 3 years thing. Very long time to decide if she is your long-term partner or not. This will be a great opportunity to say, hey babe, your equity is actually shared because we are getting married, or the preferable, actually, I think we should use this move as an opportunity to break up. And make sure you have conversations in the future when bringing partners in your home. It seems common sense, but yet here we are. Additional information from OP's comments. We are not married. I got married at 18 and divorced at 22. I have 2 wonderful kids from it, but I have zero interest in getting married again. She has known that since the beginning of the relationship. We are in the US. While a few states have common law marriage here, we are not in one of them. Also, she has a car payment, car insurance, health insurance, medical bills, and student loans. Although she suspended those a few months ago, and all she has ever paid for is half the utilities and groceries. She does not take care of my children. I do also clean the house, and neither of us has ever presented ourselves to other people as a married couple. The community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and that the girlfriend demanding equity is ridiculous, and also some are suggesting breakup. So now let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. Well, I found out the reason she wanted the equity is because she wanted to leave the relationship. About 8 months ago, she had asked me if I would get a vasectomy reversal and consider having kids with her. I already have 2. I told her no. She apparently wants kids now, and just to be clear, we did have this conversation in the past. I had a vasectomy before we even started dating. She knew I was done with having kids, and she indicated she was fine with that at the time. Anyway, after that conversation, she started planning her exit strategy. But she lost her job, and she thought I would give her at least a little bit of equity. If I gave her 5% of the sales price, that would be enough for her to leave. Well, after learning all this, I broke up with her. The house is set to close in the next 30 days, so my now ex needs to find a new place by then. She has limited funds and asked me for a loan and/or to spot her some money. I refuse. So that is where we stand after everything. Well, OP, at least now you know why she wanted equity from you. It was her exit plan. That sucks. Anyways, OP, good for you for standing your ground, and hopefully your next house is awesome. Take care, OP, and thanks for sharing. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user TARDIS Breaks Left On. Am I the a-hole for not leaving the bathroom when a child needed it? Hey everybody, this sounds kind of stupid to me, but maybe my perspective is wrong. My friend and roommate, male 30s, who we can call Kevin, has an 11-year-old daughter who we can call Rachel. For context purposes, she has no physical disabilities or bladder control issues. She doesn't live with us full-time, but she does come every other weekend and on some weekdays for visitation. Every time she does, she's always expecting people to do a lot of stuff for her that she could do herself, such as, my dad will carry stuff, get my drinks, plate my food, give me some of his drink and food after I finished mine because he loves me. This came to the point where Kevin actually, finally, told her last night that she can stop coloring for long enough to get her own water. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom. When I, female 20s, went in this morning to brush my teeth, Rachel came over and said she needed to use the bathroom. I told her to wait and that she can't try to kick me out every time she wants to pee. This was at least the 4th time she's done so this weekend. Kevin tried to tell me that I should leave so that she can use the bathroom because using the toilet takes priority over everything else. To be clear, she came in while I was already in the process and not asking once she saw me. She waited for a maximum of 2.5 minutes. Once I was out, Kevin and I had a brief discussion in which he expressed that he felt it was inappropriate for me to make either him or Rachel wait when I was not physically using the toilet. My stance is that if someone is doing a short task, they are there first, and if it's not an emergency, they should wait their turn. This seemed to be the common rule of shared bathrooms to me, but maybe I was wrong. Am I the a-hole? No, OP, you're not the a-hole. And also, has Rachel heard of knocking? She just came into the bathroom with the door closed? That's not right. That's something I taught my kids. If you see a door that's closed that you want to go through it, you knock first. In any case, I agree with you, OP. If it's not an emergency, then they need to wait. And if Kevin doesn't like it, maybe he needs to find a house for himself so that he can host his daughter. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Elijah X says, when you use the bathroom, close the door. Not their business what you're doing in there. Lock it for good measure. Not the a-hole. And Dopey responds, that's what it looks like I will have to do. That Blossom123 says, not the a-hole. You were there first. It wasn't an emergency. She has done this before a handful of times, and brushing your teeth is a short task, so she wouldn't have to wait long. Whether or not she had an emergency. I myself and everyone else in my household have to abide by this rule, unless it is an emergency, so it's nothing major here to cause a problem. Euphoric Care 2516 says, go in the bathroom and shut and lock the door. If they knock, then tell them you're using the bathroom and we'll be out as soon as you're done. If they keep knocking, tell them to F off and quit being rude. When you're done, flush the toilet and wash hands and leave. And no, it doesn't matter if you're actually using the toilet, not the a-hole. And OP responds, this is both a great idea and the only reason that I am now sad about having such a quiet flushing toilet. No Mango 8923 says, did she pee herself? I'm edging with not the a-hole, with the caveat that she doesn't have some sort of UTI or cystitis type thing. Going on, that means she's triggered by taps running and needs to pee frequently. Been there, not fun. And Dopey responds, no, absolutely not. If this was medical, I would have gotten out of the way right away. She had no urgent need at all. I checked with them afterwards. And OP has a comment, additional information that a friend of mine thought that it was important to mention. I was already in the process of brushing my teeth when she came over and asked me to leave. She said that she didn't have to go badly, but she did notice that she had to go when she heard me going in. Alright, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and they gave her plenty of ideas as to what to do so this doesn't happen again. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Hi everyone, I want to thank the people that responded to my post. Some of you were greatly concerned about the situation that I was living in and mentioned that my roommate was taking advantage of me. You were right. He was told in no uncertain terms that he was to leave within 30 days after he had not paid rent yet again. We tried conversations, but they all turned back on how after months of not stepping up to the plate of shared responsibilities, it was my fault somehow. He claimed that it was because he spent too much money feeding himself, myself, and Rachel that he could not pay rent. But I feed myself on about $50 a week with a fairly healthy diet. He claimed that he could not help clean much because he was too exhausted from his job. But I used to do something similar and I cleaned after myself and my mom. She was sick and could not do much. He claimed that everything was my way or the highway and that I never listened to him, right after admitting that I was always supportive, encouraging, and ready to listen. He claimed that I was making his life difficult. When he was told to leave, he behaved as though he was an angry teenager being grounded. He tried to say that he was going to get lawyers involved, although by law, where I am, I only had to give him 2 weeks since he had procrastinated for so long on signing the lease that he was only able to sign as a co-signer and not a tenant. The extra 2 weeks he received were not required. He said I've made his life awful ever since his daughter was diagnosed with diabetes. And for context, I had to do most of the parent-type conversations on following house rules because he was too overwhelmed. If I did not want to be tripping over her things, stepping on her toys, picking up her food garbage, and more, then I had to ask. Otherwise, he would just ask her to do it, then sit idly by as nothing changed an hour later. That was just me trying to survive the times she was there. He said that I was heartless and cruel for making him homeless and on the holidays. I ruined his life. Even though he cared about me, I clearly did not care about him and that I was just like everyone else. He hoped I was happy. He was glad I was alone and told me, good luck paying rent now. The point is, you were right. You were so right. And your encouragements to do better for myself than being in this situation were a massive help in making him leave. I had a severe medical emergency recently, and when I came home alone, I was reminded of how much happier I will always be without all of that going on in my life. So thank you, all of you. You saw more of who he was in 5 minutes than I did in years of friendship. With your kindness and the support of a friend of mine who stayed on the phone with me during his tantrum to help me stay strong, I am finally a free, happy young woman ready to resume my adventures in this world. Well, Opie, good for you. Apparently he was a very crappy friend. I actually rolled my eyes while trying to read that part about him being such a victim because you're such a bad person. But not your problem or mine. So here's wishing you the best, Opie. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Creomaga. You want it done so badly? You write it then. In high school, we had student teachers shadowing the English department. They acted as assistants to the teacher while getting whatever experience they needed for their degrees. My English teacher liked to assign topics she thought would interest us as a way to focus more on the writing than the topic. She rarely commented on the subject matter but would tear the essay itself to pieces and give specific detailed feedback to build the writing skill. Some of us went all out on these assignments. Most of the class gave a collective eye roll and handed it something that met the word count. Then there was Roy. Roy did not like homework at all in any class. He felt it was a personal insult that he had to be at school anyway, and the idea of taking schoolwork home was downright offensive. This was compounded by his firm conviction that English was an unnecessary subject. He skated by in most of his other classes because making him do the work wasn't worth the hassle. Once it became clear that Roy wasn't going to do anything in this class either, English teacher takes it as a teaching opportunity for the student teacher and the three of them sit down together. An agreement is made that student teacher and Roy will work on his homework during detention time as an alternative to actual detention for not handing homework in. Student teacher does most of the assignments, Roy hands them in. Praise all around. This goes on for several months. Student teacher eventually realizes she is getting duped and starts insisting Roy do his own work. Big assignment that is to be presented to all 3-year level English classes is handed out right before a break, so we've got plenty of time to work on it. Break ends. First week back, we are given the schedule of when we're presenting to the class. Roy is scheduled for the end of the week. Student teacher offers to help him fine-tune his presentation skills and finds out, to no one's surprise but hers, that he has done absolutely nothing. She flips her lid and tells him he has to do something. It's worth a huge percentage of the end grade. Roy tells her to write it herself and goes off to smoke at the bike sheds. So she does. At the end of the week, Roy takes his place to present his assignment, cocky in the belief that he'll ace it because all the other work he did got excellent marks. His topic was superhero fiction, and the presentation was being marked on a number of things including visual aids, presentation skills, and vocabulary. He starts off strong and is using a lot of big words and complicated language. Student teacher had even spelled things out phonetically in the notes for him. English teacher's eyes are getting wider and wider, and then we get to the visual aids. The superheroes in question were the Powerpuff Girls. We got a detailed version of the origin story and details about various powers and abilities, and a great deal of speculation on what their activities would be once they had grown up. This included multiple visual aids which were not quite homemade smut, but not your wholesome superhero drawings either. I should note here that this was late 90s, so the images were not sourced with a quick Google the way they are now. So student teacher went to some effort for this. We were all very impressed at his level of interest in these particular heroes and made sure to tell him so regularly for the rest of high school. And no, he didn't pass English. Well, Roy left her no choice but to have to do it, and she did it as he wanted, and he still didn't pass English. Sucks to be Roy. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.